Captain Lee Minho sat in his command chair aboard the exploration ship New Seoul, watching the stars drift past the main window. The ship moved slowly through space at the edge of human territory far from Earth and the busy trade routes most days. Out here were quiet with nothing but empty space and distant suns to keep them company. Minho liked the quiet. It gave him time to think about how much the galaxy had changed since humans first met alien races 300 years ago. Back then, humans were the new kids, scared and amazed by all the strange creatures and advanced technology they found. Now human ships traveled everywhere, trading with dozens of different species. The bridge crew was small, but good communications officer Park Sora sat at her station monitoring radio signals from across the galaxy. Navigation officer Kim Taeho plotted their course through the star systems. Engineering chief Yoon Minji made sure the ship kept running smoothly. They had been together for 5 years and worked like a family. Suddenly Sora looked up from her console with a worried expression on her face. "Captain," she said, "there is something strange happening. I am getting emergency signals on all frequencies at once. This is not normal." Minho turned his chair toward her. "What kind of signals?" "The voice that comes through is not human. It sounds like one of the Kalani, but the message is being broadcast everywhere like they are screaming for help." The Kalani were good friends to humanity. They were peaceful traders who looked like tall, thin people with blue skin and large eyes. When humans first joined galactic society, the Kalani had been kind and helpful. They shared technology, taught humans about galactic politics, and never asked for anything in return except friendship. "Put it on the main speakers," Minho ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was full of fear and desperation. It belonged to Ambassador Veltar, someone Minho had met years ago during a diplomatic mission to the Kalani homeworld. "Please, anyone who can hear this message," the voice said. "We need help. The Vorth Empire has attacked our worlds. They are not just conquering us, they are destroying everything. Our cities burn, our children die, and they show no mercy to anyone." Minho felt his stomach tighten. The Vorth Empire was one of the biggest military powers in the galaxy. They had huge fleets and advanced weapons. Most species were afraid to fight them. "We have asked the Galactic Council for help," Veltar continued. "We have begged the hegemony to send ships. We have contacted every major power in the galaxy. They all say they are too busy or that helping us would cost too much money." Sora put her hand over her mouth as tears started forming in her eyes. The Kalani had always been so kind to humans. It was horrible to hear them begging for help like this. "Our fleets are broken," Veltar said, his voice getting weaker. "Our colonies fall one by one. In days, maybe hours, our homeworld will be under attack. If there is anyone out there who still believes in doing the right thing, who still thinks innocent people should be protected, please help us. This might be our last message." The bridge went completely silent. Everyone stared at the speakers. Even though the message had ended, Minho could see the anger and sadness on his crew faces. These were people who had worked with Kalani before, who had Kalani friends. Captain Sora said quietly, "I am detecting 17 more messages like this from other Kalani systems. They are all asking for help, but no one is answering." Minho stood up slowly. His hands shook with anger. How could the galaxy just ignore this? How could all those powerful civilizations turn their backs on people who needed help? The Kalani had never hurt anyone. They just wanted to live in peace and trade with their neighbors. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked. Taeho sent a message to Earth. Command Minho said, "Make it priority alpha. Tell them what we heard and tell them the Kalani need help right now," but Sir Minji said carefully, "Getting involved with the Vorth Empire could mean war. They have ships and weapons we cannot match. If we fight them, we might lose everything." Minho looked at his crew. These were good people who had served with him for years. He knew they were scared, but he also knew they were thinking the same thing he was. "The Kalani helped us when we were new to space," he said. "They could have treated us like stupid children, like some other species did. Instead, they welcomed us, shared their knowledge, and became our friends. When human explorers got lost in their space, Kalani ships rescued them. When human traders needed help, Kalani offered it freely." He walked to the main window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there people were dying while the galaxy did nothing. I know we are just one ship, he said. I know the Vorth Empire is bigger and stronger than us. But I also know that if we do nothing, good people will die, and we will have to live with that for the rest of our lives. Send the message to Earth Command, he ordered again, and send a copy to every human ship colony and government in the galaxy. Make sure everyone knows what is happening. To the Kalani Sora, nodded and began working at her console. Sir, she said, the message is sent. What Minho did not know was that similar messages were reaching human ships all over the galaxy. Within hours, every human government military base and civilian settlement had heard the Kalani desperate call for help. The response would not be what anyone expected. On distant colonies, human farmers stopped their work to listen to the broadcast. On trade ships, human merchants changed course toward Earth. On military bases, human soldiers began checking their weapons. The galaxy had abandoned the Kalani, but humanity would not back on the new soul. Minho ordered his ship to set course for the nearest human military base. They were just one exploration vessel with light weapons and a small crew. But they would not stand by and do nothing while friends died. As the ship turned toward human space, none of them knew they were about to become part of the largest military response in human history. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided to fight for what was right. The Kalani had asked for help, and humanity was about to answer with everything they had. President Kim Hana sat at the head of the long table in the emergency meeting room, deep inside the Earth government building. Around her were the most powerful people in human space. Military leaders from every branch of service, representatives from each human colony world, corporate executives who controlled the big trading companies. Everyone had the same grim expression as they watched the recordings from Kalani space. The screens showed burning cities, Kalani civilians running from Vorth, soldiers' ships exploding in orbit around peaceful worlds. It was hard to watch, but everyone needed to see what was really happening. Admiral Choi Woo-jin, head of the Human Space Navy, stood up to give his report. The Galactic Council has officially declared this an internal matter between the Vorth Empire and the Kalani Republic. They will not intervene. What about the hegemony? Asked General Han Ji-won. They claim they are too busy with border disputes in their own territory. The Trade Federation says getting involved would hurt business relations with the Vorth Empire. Kim felt sick listening to the excuses. How could these ancient civilizations be so heartless? The Kalani had always followed galactic law. They paid their taxes to the council. They never threatened anyone. Yet when they needed help the most, everyone turned away. How many Vorth ships are in Kalani space? She asked. Intelligence reports suggest around 200 warships, Admiral Choi replied. Most of them are heavy cruisers and battleships. They have been planning this invasion for months. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the numbers. Humanity had maybe 50 proper warships scattered across their entire territory. Even if they gathered every military vessel, it would still be a hopeless fight against Vorth forces. Corporate executive Lee Jin-wan spoke up. Madam President, with respect, we cannot risk everything for one alien species. If we fight the Vorth Empire and lose, we might face invasion ourselves. Kim stood up slowly. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. The Kalani were not just any alien species, she said. They were our first friends in the galaxy. When we were new and scared, they welcomed us. When our ships got lost, they rescued us. When our people needed help, they gave it freely. She walked around the table, looking each person in the eye. They asked for nothing except our friendship. Now they are dying, and everyone else in the galaxy has abandoned them. But Madam President, said Defense Minister Park Kyung-soo, even if we could gather every ship we have, it still might not be enough. Kim smiled for the first time since the meeting began. It was not a happy smile, but something much more dangerous. You are all thinking too small, she said. We are not just sending our navy. We are mobilizing everything. The room erupted in surprised voices. What did she mean? Everything. Kim raised her hand for silence. For 300 years we have been building, exploring, and preparing. While other species saw us as harmless traders and curious scientists, we were quietly developing technologies that would make them nervous. We followed their rules officially, but we also prepared for the day when rules would not be enough. She activated a wall display that showed classified military projects. Admiral Choi, your ships will lead the attack, but they will not be alone. Every cargo hauler, luxury yacht, research vessel, mining ship, and transport in human space that can mount weapons is being drafted into service. The corporate executives looked shocked. You cannot be serious, they said. Those are civilian vessels. I am completely serious, Kim replied. Within 6 hours, every spaceship capable of carrying weapons will be fitted with military hardware. We have been preparing for this possibility for decades. Dr. Ryu Jiho, head of military research, spoke up. Madam President, many of our weapon systems are still experimental. We have not had time for proper testing. Then we test them in combat. Kim said, the Kalani do not have time for us to run perfect experiments. She turned back to the display. Our theoretical defensive technologies will become real. Our classified research projects will be deployed. Our prototype weapons will be mass-produced. We are going to show the galaxy what humans can really do when we decide to fight. General Han looked at the numbers on the screen. These production figures are impossible. We cannot build this many weapons this quickly. We are not building them, Kim said with satisfaction. We have already built them. We just kept them hidden in warehouses, research facilities, and corporate storage units spread across human space. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 3 centuries, while presenting themselves as peaceful explorers, humanity had been quietly preparing for war, not because they wanted to fight, but because they knew someday they might have to. Admiral Choi studied the deployment plans. Madam President, this will be the largest military mobilization in human history. If we commit everything to this fight and lose, we will not lose. Kim interrupted. Not because our weapons are better, although they are. Not because our ships are faster, although they are. We will not lose because we are fighting for something the Vorth Empire cannot understand. She looked around the room at faces filled with determination. We are fighting to protect people who cannot protect themselves. We are fighting because it is the right thing to do. That gives us a strength no empire can match. Within hours, the mobilization began. Every shipyard in human space started working around the clock. Civilian vessels were being converted to warships. Experimental weapons were being installed on anything that could fly. Corporate executives who had protested an hour earlier were now volunteering their entire fleets. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. They had seen human traders, human diplomats, human scientists. What they had never seen was humanity at war. That was about to change as reports came in from across human space. Kim felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride because her people were rising to meet this challenge without hesitation. Sadness because it had taken something like this to show the galaxy who humans really were. The Kalani had asked for help, and humanity was about to answer with a force the galaxy had never imagined possible. The ancient powers were about to learn that sometimes the youngest species could teach the oldest ones what it truly meant to stand up for what was right. In command centers across human space, military officers were receiving orders they had hoped never to get, but they followed them without question because they knew what was at stake. More than Kalani lives, more than human lives. The very idea that good people deserved protection was under attack, and humanity would not let that stand. Major Yoon Sujin walked through the cargo bay of the converted ship Busan Trader, watching civilian engineers work alongside military technicians to install weapons that officially did not exist. The massive fusion cannons being mounted on the hull were supposed to be theoretical prototypes that would not be ready for years. The armor plating being welded around the ship used materials that were still classified as top-secret research. This is completely insane, muttered Lieutenant Nam Hyunwoo as he watched a luxury space yacht receive missile launchers designed for military destroyers. We are turning vacation ships into warships and giving them weapons that break half the galactic treaties. The Kalani do not have time for us to follow proper procedures, Sujin replied. They probably do not have time for us to follow any procedures. All around them, similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of ships. Cargo haulers that once carried grain and manufactured goods were being fitted with weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. Mining ships that dug asteroids for metals now carried missiles that could crack moons. Research vessels that studied stars and planets were being equipped with electronic warfare systems that could shut down entire fleets. What was happening across human space would have terrified the established galactic powers if they had known about it. For 300 years, humanity had been quietly preparing for this moment, while other species focused on following galactic law and maintaining proper diplomatic relationships. Humans had been developing technologies that pushed every boundary. Dr. Ryu Jiho floated in zero gravity inside his research station, watching as his life work was rapidly converted from theory to reality. His defensive shield generators that existed only in computer simulations were now being installed on actual ships. His kinetic weapons that had never been test-fired were being mass-produced in factories across human space. The intercom crackled to life. Dr. Ryu, this is Admiral Choi. How long until your theoretical technologies become real technologies? About 6 hours for the basic systems, Jiho replied. 12 hours for the advanced ones. We are skipping every safety protocol and quality check, but they should work. They have to work, the Admiral said. Because in 18 hours we launch the first wave, Captain. Oh, Minju stood on the bridge of Soul's Revenge, trying to get used to her new reality. 20. 4 hours ago, her ship had been a peaceful mining vessel that spent its time breaking up asteroids and extracting valuable metals. Now it was a warship bristling with weapons that could destroy anything the Fourth Empire could send against them. The transformation was incredible. Weapons that had taken other species decades to develop were being installed in hours. Technologies that should have required years of testing were being deployed with nothing but computer simulations to guide them. It was reckless, dangerous, and absolutely necessary. Communications Officer Song Minjun looked up from his station. Captain, I have Admiral Choi on secure channel. He wants a status report. Put him through, Minju said. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, looking tired but determined. Captain. Oh, what is your ship's combat readiness? All weapon systems installed and tested, she replied. Engineering reports, full power to all systems. Crew has completed combat training. We are ready for deployment. Excellent. What about your squadron? Minju looked at her tactical display, showing the positions of dozens of converted civilian ships. All 40 ships in Mining Squadron 7 report ready for combat. Sir, we may not look like a proper military fleet, but we are armed and dangerous. I am getting similar reports from across human space. Admiral Choi said, the first wave consists of 300 vessels, military ships, converted civilian ships, and some things that do not fit any category. The second wave will be another 500 ships. What about the third wave? The Admiral paused, and for the first time since this crisis began, he smiled. The third wave is over 2,000 ships. Captain, we are going to have the largest fleet in galactic history, but Minju knew the numbers were not the most important thing. The real shock for the galaxy would be discovering what kinds of weapons humanity had been secretly developing. While other species built ships according to galactic standards and treaties, humans had been preparing for the day when standards and treaties would not be enough. The electronic warfare ship Daegu Explorer had been a research vessel studying deep space phenomena. Now Captain Yu Daeho commanded a floating computer virus factory that could shut down enemy fleets without firing a single shot. His ship looked harmless from the outside but carried enough electronic weapons to paralyze entire star systems. The cargo ship Gwangju Thunder had spent years hauling food and supplies between colonies. Now it carried kinetic weapons that could punch through any armor ever developed. The projectiles moved so fast they could cross star systems in minutes and hit with the force of nuclear explosions. Even the luxury yacht Jeju Dream had been converted for war. Its elegant passenger compartments now housed shield generators that could protect entire fleets. Its expensive entertainment systems had been replaced with targeting computers more advanced than anything the galactic military had ever seen. Lieutenant Colonel Kim Dae-hyun watched the final preparations from the command center on Earth's moon. The logistics were staggering. Weapons that had been stored in secret facilities for decades were being distributed to ships across human space. Experimental technologies that had never left research laboratories were being mass-produced and installed. The most amazing thing was how quickly it was all coming together. Every human seemed to understand what was at stake. Nobody complained about the cost or the risk. Corporate executives who normally fought over every credit were donating entire fleets. Military contractors who usually demanded years to develop new systems were working around the clock to deploy them immediately. Sir, reported communications specialist Lee Heiji. I have confirmation from all sectors. The first wave is ready to deploy on schedule. 300 ships with full weapon loads and trained crews. Send them. Colonel Kim ordered. Tell Captain Minho on the new Sol to take point. His ship started this whole thing, so his ship gets to lead the charge as the orders went out. Kim felt a mix of pride and worry. Pride because humanity was coming together like never before. Worry because they were about to start a war with one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. But mostly he felt determination. The Kalani had been humanity's first friends in space, and humans never forgot their friends. The Vorth Empire thought they were fighting a weak young species that could barely defend itself. They were about to discover that humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for exactly this kind of fight. The galaxy was about to see what happened when humanity decided to unleash everything they had been building in secret. The fleet that should not exist was ready to show the universe what humans could really do. Commander Vorthak had been conquering worlds for 30 years. He had defeated the organized fleets of great empires, crushed the desperate last stands of dying civilizations, and scattered the chaotic attacks of pirate raiders. He thought he had seen every form of warfare the galaxy could offer. He was completely wrong about humans. The warning came from his sensor officer, who looked confused and worried. Sir, I am detecting an approaching fleet, but something is wrong with the readings. What kind of wrong? Vorthak demanded from his command throne aboard the massive battleship Death's Edge. The ships do not match any known classifications, sir. They appear to be a mix of military vessels, cargo haulers, luxury yachts, and things I cannot identify at all. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Vorthak laughed, a harsh grating sound like metal scraping against stone. Let me guess. These are the humans I have been hearing about. The galaxy's newest children want to play at being warriors, yes. Sir, the fleet consists of approximately 300 vessels. They are broadcasting on emergency frequencies demanding our immediate withdrawal from Kalani space. The bridge crew joined their commander's laughter. The idea of humans threatening the mighty Vorth Empire was ridiculous. Everyone knew humans were peaceful traders and curious scientists. They had no real military power and certainly no experience in serious warfare. Open communications, Vorthak ordered. Want to see these brave little humans before I destroy them. The main screen showed a human male sitting calmly on what appeared to be the bridge of a small exploration ship. The human looked relaxed, almost bored, which struck Vorthak as strange. For someone facing impossible odds, I am Commander Vorthak of the Vorth Imperial Navy, he announced. You are interfering with a legitimate military operation. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The human smiled. It was not a friendly expression. I'm Captain Lee Minho of the Human Defense Force. You have exactly 60 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces from Kalani space. After that, we will remove you. Vorthak could not believe what he was hearing. You cannot be serious. We outnumber you. Almost 2 to 1, and our ships are purpose-built warships while yours appear to be converted cargo haulers. 50 seconds, the human said calmly as if discussing the weather. This is ridiculous, Vorthak snarled. We have conquered 17 worlds in the past month. Our fleet has never been defeated. You are either insane or suicidal. 30 seconds, Vorthak cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. Destroy their lead ships. Let these humans learn what real war looks like. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was assuming humans fought like everyone else in the galaxy. Instead of advancing in proper military formation like civilized warriors, the human fleet scattered like frightened animals. Each ship began moving in seemingly random directions, making it impossible for Vorth weapons to achieve target locks. The Vorth had trained to fight organized battle lines, not individual ships dancing through space like drunken pirates. Then the humans opened fire. The first impacts on Vorthak's flagship felt wrong. The weapons were not energy beams like every proper military force used. Instead, they were solid objects moving at incredible speeds. The kinetic projectiles punched right through the ship's shields as if they were not there at all. Report, Vorthak shouted as alarm systems began screaming throughout his ship. Unknown weapon types. Sir, they appear to be mass drivers but moving at velocities we have never recorded. Our shields are designed to deflect energy. Weapons. These solid projectiles are passing straight through. More impacts shook the massive warship. Each hit sent shockwaves through the hull that damaged systems far from the actual impact points. It was like being hit with tiny asteroids moving at the speed of light. But the kinetic weapons were just the beginning. Suddenly, the ship's computer systems began failing in ways that made no sense. Error messages appeared in languages the computers did not recognize. Equipment started operating. On its own, programs began deleting themselves while new ones appeared from nowhere. Sir, we are experiencing massive electronic warfare attacks. Someone is broadcasting computer viruses directly into our networks. Our systems are being taken over. From the inside, Vorthak watched in horror as his mighty fleet began falling apart. Ship after ship reported similar problems. The humans were not just using unconventional weapons. They were fighting in ways that violated every rule of civilized warfare. The battleship Sword of Conquest lost all power to its engines and began drifting helplessly. The heavy cruiser Blooddrinker's weapons turned and began firing on other Vorth ships. The destroyer Stormrider simply exploded when its own missiles detonated inside the launch tubes. What kind of monsters are these humans? Vorthak whispered. His tactical officer looked up from her console with terror in her eyes. Sir, they are not fighting like any species we have encountered before. Our entire battle doctrine assumes the enemy will follow galactic conventions. These humans seem to be ignoring every rule of warfare. A new impact struck the flagship. But this one was different. Instead of causing damage, it attached something to the hull. Within seconds, dozens of small objects were burning through the ship's armor boarding pods. Vorthak realized with growing panic, they are actually trying to board a ship 50 times larger than theirs. But when the human boarding teams broke through, they were not carrying the plasma rifles and energy shields used by every other military force in the galaxy. Instead, they had kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles and devices that created localized gravity fields to trap Vorth soldiers. The humans fought like demons. They moved through the ship's corridors using tactics no civilized species would consider acceptable. They set traps, used the ship's own systems against the crew, and seemed to know exactly where every critical component was located. Sir, called his communications officer. We are receiving surrender requests from over half our fleet. They report complete systems failures, boarding actions, and weapons malfunctions. Impossible, Vorthak shouted. No fleet has ever defeated us in direct combat. The humans have not defeated us in direct combat, sir. They have done something else entirely. They have made combat impossible. As if to prove the point, Vorthak's own command throne began receiving error messages. The humans had somehow gained access to his personal systems and were displaying messages in perfect Vorth language. Commander Vorthak, this is Captain Minho. You now have 30 seconds to order your fleet to withdraw, or we will take control of every ship you have and use them to attack your own home worlds. Vorthak stared at the message in disbelief. How had these primitive humans gained such capabilities in such a short time? It was as if they had been preparing for this exact type of warfare for centuries. The truth was even more frightening. Humans had been preparing. They had spent 300 years studying every alien technology, every military doctrine, every weakness of every galactic power. While presenting themselves as peaceful traders, they had been quietly developing weapons and tactics designed to make conventional warfare obsolete. 15 seconds, the message continued. Vorthak looked around his bridge at systems failing crew members panicking, and a battle that had become a nightmare. He had two choices: surrender to a species the galaxy considered children, or watch his entire fleet be captured and turned against the Vorth Empire. 10 seconds. For the first time in 30 years of conquest, Commander Vorthak gave an order. He had never expected to give all ships withdraw immediately. He broadcast to his fleet. We are returning to Vorth space as his damaged ships began their retreat. Vorthak wondered what he would tell his superiors. How could he explain that a fleet of converted civilian ships had defeated the pride of the Vorth military without even trying? He did not know that this was only the beginning. The humans had more surprises waiting, and the galaxy was about to discover what happened when you made friends with a species that never forgot a favor or forgave an injustice. General Han Jiwan stood in the war room deep beneath the Earth government complex, watching dozens of screens that showed the battle between human and Vorth forces in real time. Around her, military analysts and tactical experts studied every aspect of the engagement with intense focus. The first contact between humanity and the Vorth Empire was going better than anyone had dared hope. The kinetic weapons are performing exactly as predicted, reported Dr. Ryu Jiho from his position at the Weapons Analysis Station. The Vorth shields cannot stop solid projectiles moving at these velocities. Their entire defensive doctrine is based on deflecting energy weapons. What about the electronic warfare systems? General Han asked. Complete success. Our computer viruses are spreading through their networks faster than they can contain them. We are able to shut down entire ships without causing permanent damage to the crew. Han nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly what human military doctrine had been, designed for fighting enemies who followed galactic standards while humans broke every rule in the book. The Vorth had trained to fight conventional warfare against civilized opponents. They had no idea how to respond to tactics that ignored every accepted practice. Ma'am, called Communications Officer Song Nari. We are receiving reports from Admiral Park. The second wave is ready to deploy 500 ships with full weapon loads. What about the third wave still forming up? Current count is over 1,800 vessels, ma'am. This is the largest military force in recorded galactic history. Han turned to President Kim, who had been quietly observing the tactical displays. The president looked tired but determined as she watched human forces systematically dismantling Vorth resistance, ma'am. The Vorth commander is requesting terms for withdrawal. Han reported. Kim's expression turned cold. After what they did to Kalani civilians, after the mass murder and destruction, no terms, complete withdrawal. From all Kalani territory, full reparations for all damages. Formal apology to the Kalani people. And trials for war criminals. Ma'am, that is a very harsh demand for a first engagement. President Kim walked to the main display which showed the positions of human forces across multiple star systems. General, you are still thinking too small. The galaxy has spent 300 years treating us like children. They have seen our exploration ships, our trade vessels, our diplomatic missions. They think they know what humans are capable of. She gestured at the tactical screen. They have no idea what we have really been building. Send word to Admiral Park. Proceed with Phase 2. Phase 2 involved something the galaxy had never seen before. Total economic warfare combined with direct military action. While human fleets engaged Vorth forces in space, human corporations launched a coordinated assault on the Vorth economy. Trading routes that had operated smoothly for centuries suddenly became dangerous, as pirates seemed to know exactly which ships carried the most valuable cargo. Banking networks that had processed Vorth transactions for decades experienced mysterious failures that froze financial assets across multiple star systems. Supply chains that fed the Vorth war machine found their shipments delayed, diverted, or simply vanishing. The pirates were not really pirates. They were human special forces using unmarked ships. The banking failures were not accidents. They were cyber attacks launched by human intelligence services. The supply problems were not coincidence. They were the result of human agents working inside Vorth territory. But the real shock came when the third wave of human forces arrived. Nearly 2,000 ships of every size and description armed with weapons that violated half the galactic conventions on warfare. Some vessels carried gravity generators that could create artificial black holes. Others used electromagnetic pulse weapons that could disable entire fleets from light years away. Captain Yu Deho commanded the electronic warfare ship, Daegu Explorer. His mission was not to destroy enemy vessels, but to capture them. His ship looked like a harmless research vessel, but carried enough computer viruses to take control of anything with electronic systems. Target the Vorth command ships, he ordered his crew. Full-spectrum network assault. I want every system under our control within 10 minutes. The results were spectacular. Vorth warships began firing on each other as their weapon systems were turned against them. Communications networks collapsed as human viruses spread through military channels. Even life support systems started malfunctioning as human programs rewrote their operating instructions. "This is impossible," reported the Vorth fleet commander to his superiors. "Our ships are turning against us. Our own weapons are targeting our own vessels. How are the humans doing this?" The answer was simple but terrifying. Humans had spent centuries studying alien technology, not just to understand it but to find ways to control it. Every computer system, every network protocol, every piece of software used by galactic civilization had human-made backdoors and vulnerabilities built into it. While other species had focused on building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humans had focused on making sure they could turn those ships and weapons against their owners. The Vorth Empire was discovering that their entire military force was compromised. At the most basic level, Captain Lee Sun-hee commanded the converted cargo ship Incheon's Fury, which now carried weapons that created localized gravity distortions. Her target was a Vorth supply convoy bringing reinforcements to the battle zone. "Fire gravity mines," she ordered. The weapons looked like simple metal spheres when they launched from her ship. But when they reached the enemy convoy, each one created a gravity field strong enough to trap ships that were trying to escape. It was like fishing with black holes. The trapped Vorth vessels found themselves pulled toward the gravity sources, unable to use their engines to break free. Their only choice was surrender or watch their ships be crushed by forces they could not resist. "Ma'am, we have 15 Vorth ships requesting terms," reported her communications officer. "Tell them the same terms everyone else gets." Sun-hee replied, "Complete surrender, full cooperation with war crimes investigations, reparations to be determined later." Similar scenes played out across the battle zone as human forces demonstrated technologies and tactics that made conventional warfare look primitive. The galaxy had assumed that military power came from big fleets and heavy weapons. Humans had proven that real military power came from being able to make the enemy's fleets and weapons useless. President Kim watched the reports coming in from across Kalani space with mixed emotions. She was proud that humanity had risen to meet this challenge, but she was also sad that it had taken something like this to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. "Ma'am," reported General Han, "we have confirmation that all Vorth forces are withdrawing from Kalani space. They are also requesting immediate negotiations for a permanent ceasefire." Kim smiled for the first time in days. "Tell them we will consider negotiations after they meet all our conditions. Until then, the economic warfare continues, and our fleets will pursue them back to their own territory." The galaxy was learning a lesson that would reshape galactic politics for centuries to come. When humans said they were friends with someone, they meant it. When they decided to protect someone, they would use every resource at their disposal. And when they went to war, they did not stop until the enemy had no choice but to surrender completely. The Vorth Empire had thought they were fighting a weak young species. What they discovered was that they had attacked the friends of the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 300 years, and they were just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in their 1,000-year history. Representatives from every major power sat in stunned silence as they watched reports streaming in from across the galaxy. The images on their screens showed something that should have been impossible. A young species had just defeated one of the oldest military powers using weapons and tactics no one had ever seen before. "This cannot be real," whispered Counselor Thektar of the Hegemony. "No single species has ever deployed a fleet of this size. We have intelligence networks throughout human space. How did we miss military preparations on this scale? It gets worse," reported the Council's chief military analyst. "Our latest estimates suggest what we witnessed represents only about 30% of human military capability. The rest of their forces are still deployed in their home systems." High Counselor Velneth, an ancient being who had led the Council for over 2 centuries, watched the tactical displays with growing alarm. "How did we miss this? How did a species we have known for 300 years hide military power that rivals the greatest empires in galactic history because we were not looking?" Admitted. Defense. Coordinator Morden, his voice filled with shame. We saw what they wanted us to see. Peaceful traders, curious scientists, eager diplomats. We assumed they were like every other young species, struggling to understand galactic civilization. The truth was more disturbing than anyone wanted to admit. For 3 centuries, the established galactic powers had treated humanity like amusing children. They had ignored human questions about military technology, dismissed human concerns about galactic security, and assumed humans would never be anything more than minor players in galactic politics. On the main screen, President Kim Hana appeared speaking from the bridge of the human command ship Incheon's Pride. She looked tired, but absolutely determined. Behind her, the bridge crew worked at stations covered with displays showing human forces throughout the Galaxy Honorable Council.